Go out there. Don't sit around. Don't just survive. You have a God-given mission to bring heaven to earth. Jesus said, when you guys pray, pray like this: Father, your kingdom come and your will be done on earth here as it is in heaven. Meaning, whatever it's like in heaven, we are supposed to fight to replicate that here on the earth. And
Yeah.
so we have men who get, and right, and understandably so, get distracted by all the needs of the world and the needs of life and paying bills. And we lose sight of the fact that, oh, I'm actually like, I have an important part to play here in setting people free, in getting rid of disease and getting demons out of the world, in creating intimacy and passion in my marriage, because that's what the atmosphere of heaven would be like.
Thank you so much for checking out the show today. Look, I want you to stay connected with everything this guest has to offer. So make sure that you sign up for my weekly newsletter. I'm not here to spam you. I'm here to just send you all the behind the scenes videos, shorts, reels from this week's guest, plus some other bonuses on there. So make sure that you hit connect below this video in the description, or go to my website and sign up right there on the homepage, and I'll make sure that you stay in the loop. Thanks so much again. Have an awesome day. Keep changing the world. Matt, you're a husband, you're a father, entrepreneur, you're the founder of Man Warrior King, you're a podcast host, author of so many books, man, including The DNA of Man and so much more. Thank you for your time, dude. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Eric. Appreciate you having me on, man. I'm looking forward to it.
Absolutely. I like to kick things off by going back a bit. Like, where did you grow up and what was childhood like for you?
Yeah, so I grew up in California. My childhood, I was raised by a single mom primarily. Parents were divorced when I was like, what was it, 3 years old, I think.
Mhm.
Spent some time going back and forth between their houses, but uh, when when I was in sixth grade, my connection with my dad fell off the map.
Oh, wow.
He, yeah, he was like, he drank and everything, and there was just a time when there was a pretty dangerous visit that we had to his house with drinking and driving.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, like crazy stuff. And then him and my stepmom getting into a physical fight, and just gas, like the next day after all that happened, they kind of gaslighted us, and my sister and I, and was like, yeah, everything's fine, there's nothing wrong. And it's just crazy stuff. So
Sure.
at that moment, my like in our life, my sister and I, we wrote a letter to my dad from my mom's house, and we wrote a letter saying, like, Dad, we love you, we really really love you a lot, but that was super scary. We
Mm,
need you to stop and change, and because we don't feel safe with you anymore. And
yeah.
he replied saying, you don't know what it feels like to have your kids reject you.
Oh, of
And
course.
so from that, we didn't see him anymore through all of middle school and high school. So I was trying to figure out how to become a man, feeling like I didn't have anybody to show me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was just it was a tough process. But what it did is it made me seek God really, really, as more than a religion, but as a person. I was like,
Mhm.
God, I need you to not just be words in the Bible. I need you to actually be a dad.
Yeah.
So I know you can be. I know that you're alive. So this has to be more real than maybe some of what I've seen around
Mhm.
me. And that really set a tone for my relationship with him to be living and breathing.
Yeah.
And there were times when I felt like he actually, like, I encountered him just in the quiet of my own bedroom at night with my journal out, and like just times where like I felt like, whoa, I'm experiencing God right now.
Yeah.
So that's the nutshell version of the childhood. That's where it all began, and
Come on.
took off from there.
Man, I love that. I think as Christians, like we always, at least for me, like I struggled with trying to find my identity in Christ. And for you, like, what was that moment like for you when you finally understood your identity in Christ, and how did that moment transform your life?
Yeah, so I think for me, it has been a series of moments, right?
Mhm.
So like in the high school years, there was this one time when I was again trying to, like, I was discouraged, depressed, I don't know how to be a man, whatever. and I was in Isaiah, one of the 60s, chapter 60, I want to say 4, and there's a verse in there that says, "You, O Lord, are our Father.
Yeah.
You are the potter and we are the clay, and we're all the work of your hands." And I read that, and that's one of those times when I just broke down. I lost it
Mm.
because it was like, it was not just the words of the Bible, it was God showing up in my room. And like the way I describe it is like he was hugging me to sleep that night.
Yeah.
And so I realized in that moment, okay, I'm a son,
Yep.
but I still don't think that I fully grasped that for years to come,
Hmm.
because as I got into college and my girlfriend and I became more serious, got engaged, got married, I did put my identity in her.
Oh, sure.
So
Yep.
yeah, even though I had this really deep connection with God, I was like, but this hot, amazing woman wants me, and so it's
Yeah.
so easy to just like go to her for all
Yeah.
of that fulfillment once
Hmm.
you discover that. So it's been a series of different things over the years. I would say um, the process of me pulling my identity back out from her and where it was unhealthily entangled didn't happen until years into our marriage.
Yeah.
And I went through this process of mindset renewal to really get myself reestablished at that point.
Mm. Come on. Yeah, I've definitely, man, have felt those moments where, going through my life as my, my girlfriend was my identity, or my job was my identity, or my past, right? Like trying to get through that is crazy. In today's chaotic world, like endless distractions, like how do you find time to guard your time with God while also leading your family and running a business?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. Well, first of all, I would be not honest if I said that I do it perfectly, right? So there's
Totally.
definitely, there's definitely those seasons where I'm like, dude, I'm in self-reliance mode here. I cannot do that, you
Yeah.
know? So so um I find it very important to get it in. For me, I don't think this is a religious have to by any means, but for me, mornings are very important.
Huge. Yeah.
If I'm starting my morning off hustle and grinding, then I'm not in a good spot.
Right.
So I like to spend time with him in the morning. Uh, I also spend a good deal of time just like intentionally shutting off the radio, shutting off music, shutting off podcasts while I'm driving or whatever.
Wow.
And I need to be using that time to commune with the Lord, praying it to Him, like declaring things over my life according to
Mhm.
what He says. I do praying in tongues as well. So just like
Yeah.
just being with the Holy Spirit in any way I can. But I really do think that setting aside that time in the morning is crucial, because it's like a marriage. Like it doesn't work great if you're only spending time with your wife while you guys are going from one thing to the next to the next to the next. You've got to dedicate that focus on each other where it's like nothing else matters right now but you. And so
Come
I
on.
do think it's the same with the Lord.
That's so good, dude. And I'm big on mornings as well. I'm a pretty early riser. I'm usually up by 3:45 or 4 a.m. But for me, immediately like get out of bed and say out loud as quiet as I can without waking up my wife, like, man, thank you, Jesus, for another day to see and hug and hold my family. Like immediately go to that gratitude. But that morning routine, man, for me is a non-negotiable, right? It's after I get a little bit of workout in, I'm up to my office, I'm worshiping, I'm spending time in
Mm.
prayer, I'm reading my word. And I
Yeah.
actually spoke to a pastor a couple months back that said something to me that really hit home, and I started to implement it. But he said, I made a covenant with God that when I wake up, I'm not going to look at any social media, my email, my phone, anything until I've had a quiet time with him. And I
Yeah.
realized in the morning, like I would be getting coffee, before I came up, and I'd be looking at my phone and scrolling through that. And it would set my tone wrong for the day because I was putting that before my prayer time. And so I made that same covenant with God. I'm like, God, I'm not doing that. So I literally put my phone upstairs when I wake up and don't even like I use it as my alarm. So as soon as I get up, I put it upstairs and then go work out and stuff like that. But I don't even
Yeah.
touch it until after I've had that quiet time, man. That's huge.
That makes sense. I had this revelation the other day. I was just thinking about this. So there was a time in my marriage when it felt like my wife hardly wanted to be around me. Like we'd be in the same room, but she wouldn't
Mm.
really look at me. We wouldn't make eye contact. It just felt so disconnected. But then we would talk about the business of life and what logistics need to happen. And I
Yeah.
was realizing, I was remembering how gutted that felt when my wife was and I were disconnected like that. And I was like, Lord, this is how you feel when we run around and we don't lock eyes with you, isn't it?
Come on. Yeah.
Whoa, wow, you must feel gutted when that's because we're your bride. So that
Yeah.
just was like this week when I made that connection and I was like, wow, Lord, please, I do not want to do that to
Mhm.
us in
Yeah.
my life. It's crazy.
Dude, I love that perspective. So good, dude. I want to talk about your book though, man. The DNA of man, how your God-given masculinity rebuilds your mind, your marriage, and your mission. Like, why did you decide to put this book together? What's this like journey? Like, what's the journey you're going to take readers through in this book?
Yeah, so I put the book together because of my journey. There was a time when everything was rock bottom in my life.
Okay.
So I went through a huge health battle, still in it. But there were times like, so it started when I was 20 and the year that my wife and I were engaged, and it continued up until now. And there were times when I couldn't get out of bed because
Mm.
my body was in too much pain. It hurt. It was excruciating to just roll over in bed from one side to the other. It would
Wow.
take me like 20 minutes to walk from my bed to the car, which was parked in the garage. It was
Wow.
just horrible, horrible, horrible. And so in that place, um, my emotions plummeted. I became discouraged, depressed, feeling like God wasn't paying attention to me. I was becoming needy of my wife rather than strong and attractive, and my attempts to get her affection and attention only pushed her away and smothered her more.
Mm.
And on top of that, we had no money. We were living at my mom's house. Like everything was horrible.
Wow.
And I was looking for help in Christian marriage books. Like the marriage was one of the areas where I was really wanting to find help. And I was reading these Christian marriage books, listening to teachings, sermons. I was like, these aren't doing it for me. Like
Yeah.
the marriage advice in here, either it presents this view of marriage like, well, God's main point for your marriage is just to teach you character, to help you to love like Jesus, even when you're not loved back. And I'm like, that's not what I see in scripture. I see scripture say that marriage is supposed to be incredible,
Mm.
fulfilling, passionate, connected, sexy, all of that.
Yeah.
And those Christian marriage books then say, well, if you want to help your marriage, I'm not, this is a gross, like, over categorization. I don't think they're all this way, but what I got at that time mostly was love your wife like Jesus, sacrifice for her, be more thoughtful. And in my mind, I was like, I'm already doing all these things,
Mm.
and my marriage is still hurting.
Yeah.
So I went to listen to some different, like, non-Christian men's podcasts. And I started listening to things about masculinity and polarity between men and women, and how to not be the nice guy anymore. No more Mr. Nice Guy, and
Yeah.
all that stuff. And I was like, how have Christians not grabbed a hold of this type of thing? Because this is not anti-Jesus. This is not unbiblical. This is incredibly kingdom lifestyle here, but nobody's talking about it.
Yep.
So I wrote the book for that,
Come on.
because I knew that if I was lacking in my search for help, other guys would be too. So the book is really takes men through a journey of finding their identity, which a huge part of that is shedding your own conceptions of yourself. Man, I suck. I am a horrible husband. I'm a failure. I'm a screw up. I have anger problems. I'm not confident. Whatever
Yeah.
these statements are against yourself, heaven doesn't say those things towards you.
Yeah.
God's telling you, no, you don't suck as a husband. You know why? Because I haven't given you a spirit of fear, but one of power and love and a sound mind.
Mm.
That sounds like an incredible husband to me. Not to mention, you have the fruit of the spirit inside of you. So why would you say you're depressed when I've given you the fruit of joy? And
Yeah.
so this process of finding identity means letting go of what I think of myself, and going through a process of embracing what God says about me.
Mm.
And when I
Yeah.
do that, I build confidence. I build a solid inner frame so that I'm no longer living to get my wife's affection, but I'm living from principle, and
Right.
I'm rooted, and I can have conflict with her when it's needed because I'm not afraid of her anymore,
Hmm.
because I'm not getting my worth from her. I'm getting it from him.
Yeah.
And then, the book rounds out with a discussion of being a man on mission and no longer living for the 9 to 5 survival, but living an epic life, which Jesus has invited us into, to say, hey, you guys go, bring my kingdom to the world. You guys go and do incredible things, the greater things than even I did. Sorry about that.
Oh no,
There's
you're good, man.
uh so you guys can do even greater things
Hmm.
than I have done. And so it's a call to men to be like, whoa, life is supposed to be more. Let's
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah. Man, dude, I think it's such a need for us men to realize that. How big and important is it for men to find a community of other men that can help them just draw into that? Because I think a lot of times us men, I know for myself, like it's hard to ask for help. It's hard to step out into a community and find other men that are struggling in those same areas, right? Like how important is that for us men to break that barrier of comfort and get in around other men?
Yeah, it's so important, especially for a married man, because guys can end up getting into a bad habit of wanting to consult with their wife about all of their problems, all
Yeah.
of their feelings, wanting her to help make them feel better. And what they end up doing is they put her in the mother role,
Mm.
and then she's not sexually attracted to them anymore. And in my opinion, you ask any guy, would you rather have her mother you or want to have sex with you? They're all going to say, I want her to have sex with me. Right. So
Right. Totally.
you've got to have somebody else
Yeah.
to let your weakness show with,
Mm.
because she wants a strong man.
Yep.
And it is important that it's men, because we are lacking an initiation culture. We don't Many of us don't know that I deserve a seat at the table of men.
Hmm.
And so if you have a community of others that accept you, that challenge you, that uh help you when you're feeling it, like, it's vital
Yeah.
for your own health and the health of your marriage. Absolutely.
Man, so good. My wife and I were going to check it out a new church recently, and like went up to one of the pastors there and said, "Hey, do you guys have a men's ministry or men's pastor?" They go, "Yeah, we have four men's pastors." I'm like, "Cool. Like, do you guys do like a men's breakfast or men's groups?" And he's like, "We absolutely do not believe in men's groups. We think that that is a excuse for them to just check a box and not be part of that." And I thought he was joking at first, but it turns out he was actually real. And I was like, "This is crazy, dude." Like just a wild, like Jesus literally gave us the example of a men's group, man, and this church. It was just wild, man.
That's
Um,
so weird.
yeah, it was. I didn't understand. I mean, like I said, my wife and I were both in shock. We're like, "Is he joking right now?" Like we walked away going, we were so stunned that we didn't even have a response for it. Like, this is crazy,
Yeah,
But
right.
in your book, you cover three solid and powerful elements that of manhood that men really need to learn to walk in. Like, what are those elements, and why are those three important?
Yeah. So those three elements are uh identity, principle, and mission.
Yeah.
And honestly, all three of them come from Genesis. They come from Adam and what God did with Adam. Like, you see at the beginning at Genesis 1, God gave him an identity. I'm going to make you in my image.
Mm.
Right? So our identity, we have to understand. I think identity is probably the most important of the three, because we have a lot of Christian men who have bad identities, who think I am just a sinner saved
Mm.
by grace, and that's it. I don't amount to much of anything. I can't do anything of value. And if you really, really ingest that, what it's going to do is it's going to lead you down a path of passivity and a path of timidity and fear, instead of walking in the authority that Jesus gave you.
Yeah.
Instead of showing up on the scene like one of David's mighty men, when everybody else runs and heads for the hills, I want to be like Shammah, who stands his ground single-handedly in the field to fight off the Philistines, and look around and be like, nobody else is here. Well, I'll do it because I know I can.
Come on.
But we have a lot of Christian men who don't know that they can because they've been told they can't.
Yeah.
And so we are trying to be humble by being so self-deprecatory, but we are actually, in my opinion, we're pridefully resisting the good that God speaks over us. And we
Yeah.
say, no, no, no. What you're saying is too good to be true. I'm gonna keep with my own narrative about myself.
Yeah.
So the identity is a crucial piece there, established from the beginning. And the whole point of what Jesus did on the cross was to resurrect the identities that had been covered over by sin.
Mm.
So I
Yeah.
see the cross as a reminder of how valuable we are, not how sucky we are.
Yeah.
And I
Yes.
think it's
Yeah.
a key difference, right? Uh, the second one is principle. And you also see God giving Adam the principle of not eating from one of the trees in the garden. And he gave Adam that principle before Eve was around.
Yeah.
So a man living by principle is incredibly important because, especially in a marriage, like I've already talked about a bit, a man can end up revolving around his wife, abandoning the God given principles and convictions that he has for what he wants his life to look like for the sake of wanting to get more from her.
Mm.
So I'll be willing to let go of the mission of going out and taking dominion over the earth. I'm going to hang around the garden with Eve. And you know what? Instead of staying true to the principle that God said, don't eat from the tree, when she offers it to me, I'm going to take that fruit as well. Maybe because I'm speculating, but maybe because he didn't want to have conflict with her because he wanted to keep the peace and create atmosphere for more sex. Who knows? Like,
Yeah.
but he wanted what she had to offer instead of staying true to his course. So if we stay as men of principle, we maintain our ability to be attractive to a woman,
Mm-hmm.
and we maintain the ability to lead and to be strong rather than be a man of compromise.
Yeah. Oh.
And then the man on mission is really again, God gave Adam, go take dominion,
Mm-hmm.
go out there, don't sit around, don't just survive. You have a God-given mission to bring heaven to earth. Jesus said, when you guys pray like this: Father, your kingdom come and your will be done on earth here as it is in heaven. Meaning, whatever it's like in heaven, we are supposed to fight to replicate that here on the earth. And
Yeah.
so we have men who get, and right, and understandably so, get distracted by all the needs of the world and the needs of life and paying bills. And we lose sight of the fact that, oh, I'm actually like, I have an important part to play here in setting people free, in getting rid of disease and getting demons out of the world, in creating intimacy and passion in my marriage, because that's what the atmosphere of heaven would be like. And so we really have this opportunity to live an epic life that should wake us up and make us come alive again.
Yeah. Man, I think every man needs to take that and just go, we are here to create and live an epic life, man. What a cool thing there, dude. Now, I want to jump into your podcast. It's called Man Warrior King. You've done nearly 100 episodes if I did my research right there. Congratulations. That's huge, man. But
Thank you.
how has your podcast helped you in your marriage and helped you in your business?
So the podcast has given me an opportunity. Well, first of all, it's given me an outlet for living on my mission.
Yeah.
And I think if a man is not living on his mission, it does slowly kill him. And
Mm.
so when you ask, how does it help my marriage? A man fully alive is a better man in the marriage. So as I am living out of a place of passion, it helps me to be more happy, more fulfilled, more confident, because I'm not saying no to what I'm called to do. I'm saying yes to it, which builds my confidence instead of constantly telling myself I can't do that. Right. So I think in that way, it has definitely helped my marriage. It's also forced me to be accountable. If I'm preaching a message, I need to live it. And
Yeah.
I don't do it perfectly. I'm on a journey as well, but I know that I can sit behind the mic with a clear conscience and say I'm not trying to put on a facade for anybody. I'm not trying to make you think I'm doing this perfectly. I'm on the journey with you, but I need to tell you what I'm learning and what I have learned and where I've come from and how vastly different it is from where I was. So the podcast has been huge in that regard. And as far as the business goes, I mean, it I have gotten so much feedback from different people who listen and people on my email list who just communicate like this. Your podcast has gotten me through, like some guys say, some of the hardest times of my life. I've listened to all your episodes and it got me through like 3 years of horrible stuff. So
Wow.
it has really helped to build that intimate connection with an audience, that I think is crucial as far as business goes, so that I'm not just I'm not just always asking for money from people, but I'm giving out that value that makes them want to be like, I need more of this. I want to work with you. So it does help to create a more smooth flow of value, a transaction of value between customer and myself. So
Yeah, man. Podcasting is just a massive, like you said, accountability thing, man. For me, it's even legacy. Like I wish that I could go back 3, 4 generations deep and hear my great grandfather's voice and hear his story from him, right? I
yeah.
can't do that, but I can do that for future generations down my tribe, right? And they can come back and hear my story and hear what I was doing and passionate about, man. I love
Hmm.
that. Matt, you're an absolute world changer, man. I'm excited for your book. People need to go out and get that. They need to go get on your newsletter and subscribe to your podcast. It's absolutely phenomenal, man. Thank you for your time, dude. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely, Eric. Thank you for the vote of confidence there, and thanks for the conversation. Appreciate it, man.
Hey, if you've ever thought about starting a podcast but unsure where to go, you need to go check out ericalanmedia.com. Click on the resources tab there. I will walk you through how to start, launch, and run a podcast. I've recorded over 500 interviews since 2017, and I want to help you launch your podcast. Make sure that you hit that subscribe button so you catch every show when I drop them. Thanks again. Keep changing the world.